going on, guys? And thanks so much for tuning into the official mock draft 1.0 of the offseason. Totally pumped up to unveil this thing with you guys, and even more excited to see what you guys have to say down below in the comment section regarding your favorite teams and favorite players and whatnot. But we got 32 picks here to go through. Let's not waste any more time. Let's hop right in. With the first pick, I have the Cincinnati Bengals selecting, no surprise, quarterback from LSU, Joe Burrow. When you look at Joe Burrow and what he did this past season for LSU, and I'm not over-exaggerating, he pretty much did everything. He did everything, every goal that you can possibly set as a D1 college quarterback, he accomplished it, right? He accomplished it. Whether it's breaking LSU records, breaking NCAA records, going undefeated, winning the Heisman, having an incredible touchdown to INT ratio, elevating his teammates around him, showing off his accuracy, pocket presence, his mobility down the stretch of the season. I didn't think he was this mobile. I got to be 100% honest with you. I didn't think he was this mobile heading into the season. He showed flashes that he can be an athletic quarterback, like an Andy Dalton, like an Alex Smith, like a Ryan Tannehill, where defensive coordinators won't take into account his running abilities. And he won a national championship rather. Players, coaches, fans bought in. They love him. Nobody has a bad word to say about Joe Burrow surrounding the school, LSU. Nobody has a bad word to say about him. Factor in he's from Ohio. Factor in that the Cincinnati Bengals are probably going to be moving on from Andy Dalton. I don't know if he's going to be re-signing to mentor Joe, but I don't think that's a possibility. I don't want to say this is a lock, but there's, because there's a lot of time from now until April, actual draft day, but it's the closest thing to it. He has a lot of tools that Zach Taylor wants in that style of system where he's accurate, and he does show an understanding of the LSU offense, but you can make the argument, hey, he is surrounded by top talent. The offensive coordinator, Joe Brady, just left and got a offensive coordinator gig with the Carolina Panthers, so obviously he's a hot commodity, and he's pretty much thrown from a clean pocket virtually every throw. How does this, there are some questions with Burrow. How does he handle adversity? How is he going what's going to be the dynamic for Burrow when he goes from the best team in college football to the one of record-wise the worst team in the National Football League, right? Where he's getting pressured, where he's not going to have time to throw, where running backs can't, hit the holes, where wide receivers can't get open. I do like a lot of pieces on Cincinnati, right? Sam Hubbard, Carl Lawson, Jesse Bates, one of my favorite players in the league, Tyler Boyd, Joe Mixon, AJ Green might be coming back, Jonah Williams, Cordy Glenn. So they do have some pieces, but obviously this is not a good football team. How will Joe Burrow respond to going to the worst team in the league? That's just a question that everybody has to ask. So I think I would say 95% chance of this happening. I don't want to call it a lock just yet, but it's pretty much looking like Burrow to the Bengals is a done deal. So next up, we have the Washington Redskins, and again, another obvious selection here. Chase Young, defensive end out of Ohio State. Chase Young, from top to bottom, is the best player in this draft. Okay, overall, when you look at him as a prospect, he has so much to work with. He has the numbers, he has the power, he has the speed, he has the versatility. He has the size. You look at the Washington Redskins defense. In my opinion, I think this defense, and I know I might get some heat for it, can be the best defense in the league in 2-3 years. They have first-round pick after first-round pick after first-round pick. Jonathan Allen, Ryan Kerrigan, Daron Payne, Montez Sweat. You're going to be adding Chase Young to the mix. Don't forget about Reuben Foster. Don't forget about Landon Collins in the back end. This Redskins defense, also playing in that division, can really make some noise in, I want to say, 2 years. I do believe in 2-3 years, they could be winning the NFC East, as crazy as that sounds. As loaded as Dallas is, as talented as Philly is as well, the Giants aren't really a threat, but really, the Redskins can make some noise with selecting Chase Young. He's held in a more, or how should I say this, he's rated higher as a prospect than both of the Bosa brothers, then Myles Garrett, then Jadeveon Clowney, right? Some of the top defensive ends coming out in recent history. So this is, pretty much every other draft, Chase Young's the number one pick. But you're sitting there at number 2 and he falls to you. You gotta take him. Washington, Rivera, Jack Del Rio. You gotta take Chase Young. So next up, we got the Miami Dolphins trading up with the Detroit Lions from spot number 5 to spot number 3. To select quarterback from Alabama, my favorite quarterback in this draft, or my number 1 quarterback in this draft, rather, Tua Tagovailoa from Alabama. The Miami Dolphins have been obsessed with Tua for years. Okay, ever since he came in and won the national championship against Georgia, they've been obsessed with him, right? The lefty, he has so much to work with. When you watch Tua, it's magical, right? His scrambling ability, his ability to extend plays, it's literally like watching a college version of Russell Wilson, right? Or a left-handed version of Russell Wilson in college. Elevates his teammates. And think about this for just a second. When you think of Alabama football, you think of Nick Saban winning games, defense, running the ball, Derrick Henry, Heisman winners, and game manager quarterbacks. I mean, how many game managers have Alabama, or really has Alabama had over the past couple seasons, and they've still won the national championship, right? Tua comes in and flips that dynamic like that, and all of a sudden, it takes a special person. It takes a special player to come into a dominant dynasty like Alabama and make it about you, right? Make it about you. Tua is going to be special in the league. I know there are some injury concerns. I know there are some height and weight concerns, but overall, Tua, like I said, he's my number one quarterback. I think he's special. Downfield accuracy is incredible. Ability to move around in the pocket is fantastic, and has accuracy on every level of the field, right? Deep, intermediate, and short. I think this is a slam dunk for the Miami Dolphins. Also, if he's not 100% healthy, you can stash him and sit him behind Ryan Fitzpatrick, who's under contract for 2020. Fitzpatrick galvanized that Dolphins offense, especially down the stretch of the year, winning some crazy games like against the Patriots and the Eagles. You don't have to play him right away if you're Miami. Slam dunk pick. I also think they acquired all this draft capital, in last season's draft, right? Just trading up and trading down and trading away players and stuff like that, right? Laramie Tunsil, Mekhi Fitzpatrick, because they need to select a quarterback. There's no way that they're going to just sit at 5 and just hope that somebody doesn't just trade up. In this scenario, I have them coming up with the Detroit Lions to take 2 up. So next up, New York Giants at spot number 4. This is a prospect who I'm not 100% sold on here, but I have the Giants selecting cornerback Jeff Okuda from Ohio State. I know there's a lot of talk of Okuda being the number 1 corner in this draft, and he's just going to come in and be the next Jalen Ramsey. He's not afraid to hit. He has incredible size and speed and length. And he obviously did well against top competition at Ohio State, right? He did really well in the Clemson game. But I just got to be honest, from what I've seen on tape, and maybe it's just because of my value as far as cornerbacks go, I don't know if I would take a cornerback this high in the draft unless he's a 100% lock like a Darrelle Revis. I just don't know. But look, the Giants need a lot of help in a lot of different areas, right? Offensive line being one of them, wide receiver being one of them. Defensive line, you can make the argument, right, like an edge rusher. But they have a whole new coaching staff coming in the building, and I do think they want to get better on defense. Janoris Jenkins got traded away. They need to stop the bleeding on the defense side of the football. Jeff Okuda, everybody thinks he's going to go to the Lions at 3. He gets pushed down to slot number 4, and I have the Giants taking him, right? He fills a major need, and he's going to be a plug-and-play starter, instant upgrade over whoever the Giants have, Sam Beal and all these other guys. So Giants, Jeff Okuda. Next up, Detroit Lions, spot number 5. Remember, they traded down with the Dolphins. I'm going with defensive tackle out of Auburn, Derrick Brown. Derrick Brown's one of my favorite players in this draft. I think he's a dominant force. I look at Detroit. I think Matt Patricia might be on his last, right? He's hanging on by a thread here. He's a defensive-minded head coach. He needs to select a player here that's going to make a day one impact. The Lions pretty much have a lot of positions filled. Running back, tight end, wide receiver. Stafford can still play. They have some nice pieces on the O-line. They can upgrade, I guess. They just signed Trey Flowers. Darius Slay's a nice piece as well. Gerard Davis. They could go safety here, but there's really not a safety here worth picking at spot number 5. Derrick Brown is a dominant force, like I said. He wrecked the SEC for 2 seasons. Mind you, 2 seasons. If he were to come out his junior year, he would have been a late first-round pick. He comes back and dominates, right? He just tremendously shot up his stock. I like Derrick Brown a lot. All of a sudden, you're looking at this Lions defensive line that struggled last season because of injuries. Remember, Mike Daniels is a free agent. Who else? A'Shawn Robinson, I think, is a free agent as well. You have to fill that void somehow. Get the best defensive tackle in the SEC, Derrick Brown. Next up, LA Chargers. I'm going quarterback Justin Herbert. Now, in my my mock draft that I did while the season was still going on, I made the argument that, and it's funny because you can kind of play both sides of this thing here, but I said in that video that the Chargers have everything. They have a running back. They have a decent offensive line. They have a tight end. They have wide receivers. They have safeties and corners and linebackers and defensive linemen, edge rushers, right? They have everything, but they're a quarterback away. They are a quarterback away. So it begs the question, let's try to maybe sign like a Marcus Mariota, a Jameis Winston. Let's throw Tyrod out there and just see let's just draft another good player for Tyrod, and let's just make a Super Bowl push, because this team has the talent to do that under Anthony Lynn. But then I was thinking about this after, discussing with my brother, past couple weeks. He made a really good point. He said, okay, that's all well and good. They have receivers, they have all these different positions, and they're going to be a good team. When are they going to have this chance? When are they going to have another top 5 pick, or a top 10 pick rather, to select a quarterback? If this team is as good as everybody says it is, they're probably going to be picking in the 20s next season, late teens. What better opportunity to select a quarterback at the top of the draft with size, with talent, with arm strength, with mobility, with overall poise and intelligence of the game? Justin Herbert's sitting right there for the Chargers. You can stash him away for a year and have no pressure. Look at Patrick Mahomes. They traded up to go get him at 10. Has every tool in the book, wasn't ready to play. What team did he go to? He went to Andy Reid, right? High-flying offense. Gave him every weapon they could possibly give him. Sat him a year under Alex Smith. They could do the same exact thing with Justin Herbert, the LA Chargers here. So I really, really like this pick. I like Justin Herbert a lot as a prospect, and I do think he kind of fits the LA kind of vibe, right, for the Chargers team. So really, really liking that pick. Next up, Carolina Panthers, Isaiah Simmons, safety / linebacker from Clemson. Luke Kuechly just retired. Okay, Vernon Butler probably won't be back. Thomas Davis has been gone for quite some time. This Panthers defense needs to get younger. It needs to get faster. It needs to get more explosive. I look at Joe Brady coming in from LSU, the new offensive coordinator. He was not able to slow down Isaiah Simmons at all in the championship game. It seemed to me like Isaiah Simmons was the only Clemson defensive player that was just flying around the football field. He was always there to make a stop, make a play when they needed it. They have a void at linebacker. They just need to get more explosive on the defensive side of the football. What better piece can you select at this point in the draft at spot number 7 than Isaiah Simmons? He completely wrecked Joe Brady's game plan, he wasn't able to figure out how to stop him or slow him down. Get Isaiah Simmons in the building. Do you need him to play safety? Okay, cool, he can do that. Do you need him to play linebacker? Cool, he can do that. You want him to play kind of that hybrid kind of role, like a Deion Buchanan, Landon Collins type, where he's like the box safety linebacker? He could do that. He could play some nickel corner. Okay, as crazy as that sounds, he's a versatile chess piece on the defensive side of the football. Go get him, Carolina. Next up, Arizona Cardinals, wide receiver, Oklahoma, CeeDee Lamb. Now, Cliff Kingsbury has shown that he's going to do whatever he wants, right? We took Josh Rosen last year. I don't want him. I want Kyler Murray. He could go play in the major leagues. I don't care. We're going to take him anyway. CeeDee Lamb has dominated the Big 12 and dominated the college football, or the collegiate football ranks for years with multiple quarterbacks. Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, the current Cardinals quarterback, and Jalen Hurts. Absolutely dominant. The number 1 wide receiver. Great hands, great route running ability, wins at 50-50 balls. He's a deep threat. You can just get him the football, and he could just make moves in space and create plays. I think that's what the Cardinals need. Yes, they need offensive line, but when you have a guy like CeeDee Lamb, and also they're going to be having Hakeem Butler from Iowa State coming back as well, this wide receiving core, they have Larry Fitzgerald, they have Christian Kirk. This is going to be an explosive unit. Kyler Murray is going to be getting the football out of his hands quickly. You can you go back and watch Oklahoma tape. The amount of slants and screens that CeeDee Lamb caught was insane. Okay, CeeDee Lamb is an explosive player. I like Jerry Jeudy a little bit more, honestly, but I think Lamb is the better fit for Kingsbury. He's going to be coming into a system very similar to Lincoln Riley's at Oklahoma. He's going to be coming in with a quarterback that they have chemistry with, right? They're boys. So CeeDee Lamb to the Arizona Cardinals. Makes a lot of sense. Next up, Jacksonville Jaguars, Javon Kinlaw, South Carolina defensive tackle. Kinlaw had an outstanding Senior Bowl week. Really shot up his stock. This guy dominated. Pretty much, he was one of those guys that he would flash, and the games that he was on, it was almost similar to, not just saying it because the college, same colleges here, but Jadeveon Clowney. Clowney would have some games where he would just look like he's going to be the greatest player in NFL history. And then he would have some games where it was like, good player, first round pick, but not going to be a dominant force. That's why there was some people on the Clowney bandwagon, and then there were some that weren't. Kinlaw, obviously two different positions here. Kinlaw's ability, his potential is through the roof. I look at Jacksonville, and yes, they could go wide receiver here, get Gardner Minshew a weapon. Yes, they could go cornerback, replace Jalen Ramsey. There's not really a linebacker worth taking here to replace Telvin Smith, but Kinlaw, I just think the potential is there. Doug Marrone, similar to a Matt Patricia, he needs a player that's going to come in right away and make noise, make an impact, start. They don't want to take another Taven Bryant, which is like a potential kind of guy who's going to take years to develop. They need a guy that could come in now, rush the passer from the interior, move him around the defensive line, and help stop the run. So I really, really like Kinlaw to the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think it's a big need. Next up, Cleveland Browns, Tristan Wirfs, tackle/guard from Iowa. I look at Kevin Stefanski coming into this Browns team. What did he do in Minnesota? He ran the football. Dalvin Cook, everybody wants to talk about Dalvin Cook. He's amazing. The Vikings were running the football left and right. Remember, the Vikings offensive line was not great. The Cleveland Browns offensive line is not great. It's not even average. Okay, you got to get better on this offensive line. Baker Mayfield was being rushed left and right last season, throwing interceptions, constantly being sacked, constantly having to elude pressure. Get back to running the football. Nick Chubb is one of the best running backs in the league. Get a guy in Tristan Wirfs, the best run blocker in the draft, who can play guard, who can play on the right side, who can play on the left side, he can play tackle if you want him to. A versatile player on the O-line that really, when you put him anywhere, he's going to be an upgrade. Go get Tristan Wirfs if you are the Cleveland Browns. Helps out the run game, play him all over the place, play him at tackle, play him at guard, whatever. Wirfs to the Browns, it's a solid fit. Next up, New York Jets. New York Jets sitting here at spot number 11. We have some there's a lot of players that here that the Jets can go with, right? Jerry Jeudy, AJ Epenesa, a lot of guys we could go tackle, but I'm selecting Andrew Thomas, left tackle from Georgia. When you watch Jake Fromm's development over the past 3 years, or really just his tape, he was never sacked. He always threw from a clean pocket. Andrew Thomas not only was a dominant left tackle in the SEC that put out amazing tape, but he also played on the right side. He also played as a freshman. He also played in big games. He was Jake Fromm's confidant, right? He was his left-hand man. If Fromm was Batman, Andrew Thomas was Robin. He was right there with him, always protecting, always doing his thing. Now, I know there's some question marks about Thomas kind of getting lost in space and stuff like that and his overall size, but I love Thomas as a prospect. I think when you're just looking at pure left tackle, right tackle, the tackle position coming out, I think Thomas is the number one guy in this draft. And this is a huge steal for the Jets at spot number 11 to get the number one rated offensive tackle. I love this pick. If he's on the board, I want the Jets to take him, even though I really want a Lamb or a Jeudy or something like that, or even a Wirfs for that matter. So, New York Jets, Andrew Thomas. Next up, Las Vegas Raiders, Jerry Jeudy, wide receiver, Alabama. Again, one of my favorite players in the draft. I look at this Oakland Raiders offense under John Gruden here, and they got to get more explosive. They have some nice pieces, right? Hunter Renfrow, Josh Jacobs, right? Just won MVP or Rookie of the Year. Darren Waller came on the scene really nice, and even I think it was Tyrell Williams too. It just dominated last season actually, but they need some explosiveness. John Gruden loves that traditional X receiver that can create space, that route running ability. Jerry Jeudy's the best route runner in this draft. He could take the top off defenses as well. He's not the fastest guy in the world, But he has great hands. He has great route running abilities. Jerry Jeudy to the Vegas Raiders. Go help out who's ever going to be throwing him the football next season. Whether it's Carr, whether it's a free agent, whether it's a veteran, whether it's a rookie. We'll see. Next up, Indianapolis Colts. AJ Epenesa, defensive end out of Iowa. This is a solid pick. This is a safe pick. This isn't one of these potential reach style picks. This is going to be one of those picks where I don't really know if Epenesa is going to be, getting the 14, 15 sack seasons. He reminds me a ton of Ron Kerrigan coming out of Purdue years ago, right? Just a guy who's going to be solid, who could kind of, he's going to come in and he's going to play a lot of downs. He's not going to have to come off the field a lot. He's going to be powerful. He's going to set the edge really well. And I look at the Colts and I think number one, he'd be an upgrade, obviously, at the defensive end spot, and he's going to be able to rush the passer. When you look at that division, too, they have some pretty solid quarterbacks: Deshaun Watson, Gardner Minshew, and Ryan Tannehill. But who really knows what's going on with that situation? I like Epenesa to the Colts. Chris Ballard, one of my favorite GMs in the league, if not my favorite. I think he's going to make a push, and I think he's going to go with the safe pick in Epenesa, right? A guy who just dominated the Big Ten for years and years and years. Again, never really was talked about as like the number one, number two pick, but a guy who just can put out consistent tape against great offensive lines. Michigan State, Ohio State, Wisconsin, Penn State, right? Big Ten has some solid offensive lines. I really like Epenesa to the Colts. So next up, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, safety out of LSU, Grant Delpit. Now, in my opinion, Delpit is not the best safety in this draft. I got to be honest with you. But there are some games where Grant Delpit is the best player on the field. It's almost like he gets in. It's kind of weird because I feel like he's almost like a basketball player, right? You see it all the time with basketball players where they get hot, like a Kyrie Irving and stuff like that. They just get hot and everything's going in, right? 3-pointers, they're able to shake people, ripping the ball out of, just playing good defense, whatever. Seems like everything is going in and they're just in the zone. Grant Delpit has games where he is everywhere. Everywhere the football goes, he's there, making an impact. Great leader. Versatile, right? I really do think he can play both safety positions. And I look at the Buccaneers defense, and there's obviously some struggles. There's a lot of question marks, especially in the secondary. I do like some of the pieces, Carlton Davis and stuff like that, but Todd Bowles needs a high-flying, versatile safety, a hard-nosed leader. Go get Delpit if you're the Bucs. Yes, you can make an argument quarterback. You can make an argument offensive tackle. But I think Grant Delpit, I think you have to, as a coaching staff, as a front office, give Todd Bowles more talent on defense. They obviously selected Devin White last year. Incredible pick that was. Go get him, his former teammate at safety, playing behind him. So Delpit to the Bucs. Next up, Denver Broncos. I'm not going to lie to you, this was the hardest pick in this entire mock draft for me to select. They have young pieces on offense, but I have them going tackle, Mekhi Becton. All right, Mekhi Becton out of Louisville. Massive human being. I think he's 6'7", 360 pounds. I mean, they don't really, yes, you could say, they traded away Emmanuel Sanders. They desperately need wide receivers. I don't really think so. I think Noah Fant is more of a wide receiver anyway. He's going to be a vertical threat. He's going to be that safety blanket, that security blanket for Drew Lock. You have Cortland Sutton, one of my favorite receivers in the league. I like Deshaun Hamilton a lot too. I think they're going to attack wide receiver through free agency and not so much the draft. If they do attack it through the draft, it's going to be in the third rounds, right? Like a guy like Tyler Johnson out of Minnesota, a day two guy. I'm looking at Becton, and really, what is the goal for this Broncos offense? The goal is to stretch the field and to scare defenses with the young, explosive talent. All those guys I just mentioned, even Phillip Lindsay, is a young player, right? These guys are all young players. We need time for Drew Lock to throw the football downfield. He is the second best arm in the league behind Josh Allen. We got to make some noise here on offense. We just cannot go 3 and out and 3 and out and 3 and out and making the same mistake that the Jets did and the Browns did by not addressing the O-line. I don't really know what's going to be really what the deal is with Garrett Bowles, if they're gonna sign him to a long-term contract or just move on. But I think Becton out of Louisville, he comes in, he could be a plug-and-play player, played on the right side, played on the left side. Becton to the Broncos. Next up, we have the Atlanta Falcons selecting defensive end Javon Chaisson out of LSU. I don't really know what went wrong with the second half of the mock draft, but for whatever reason, YouTube was only taking 20 to 25 minutes of the original mock draft that I uploaded, and it just completely sliced off the second half of the video. So we're just gonna roll through it again. So we left off on the Atlanta Falcons, and I have them selecting Javon Chaisson from LSU. Okay, Atlanta's another one of those teams like Detroit where they have a good quarterback, they have a lot of receivers. Hooper is, I believe, hitting free agency, and I don't really know what the team's future is with Devontae Freeman. I think a running back could go here, but right now I'm just going to play it safe and go with Chaisson, right? Vic Beasley didn't really pan out after having that electric season early on in his career. And then Takk McKinley, I don't really know what I'm getting with Takk as of right now. Is he going to reach his potential? If I had to make a bet on it, I'd probably say at this point, no. So Chaisson's an electrifying player, right? He could blitz off the edge. He comes up the middle, whatever. You could kind of move him all around the box, and he's going to have a lot of success. Now, numbers wise, he didn't really put up a lot of sacks, but he still impacted the game. He's still a physical player that he's going to bring versatility and speed and an overall tough attitude, tough mentality to this Falcons defense. Dan Quinn likes versatile, athletic. Even if they're a little bit smaller, he does like those guys that he can kind of move around the field. So Chaisson's not a guy who I'm in love with, quite frankly, but I feel like at this point in the draft, supposedly everybody is saying his stock is rising. So I'm going to Atlanta here. So next up, we have the Dallas Cowboys, and I'm selecting cornerback from Alabama, Trevon Diggs. Now, Diggs is a guy who I really, really like. He has length and size. Physical, gets his head around. I like this cornerback a lot. And when you look at Dallas, new head coach coming in the building, obviously Mike McCarthy, entire new staff outside of Kellen Moore, they're going to want to get a culture established. Okay, what better culture is there in college football than Alabama? They desperately need corners. Okay, their defense got torched last season. Even against team the Dallas Cowboys should have won that division easily. The Giants are whatever. The Redskins last season were just they weren't doing anything, and then Philly was just decimated with injuries. There was no excuse for Dallas to not win that division. And their defense was, I feel like, the main culprit. Okay, yes, you can talk about Jason Garrett and his play calling or Dak Prescott. I thought Dak Prescott had a really good season last year. We got guys coming back like Frederick and Zeke Elliott having solid seasons. Amari Cooper is set to hit the free agency market, but he's expressed interest in coming back to Dallas. I like this Dallas Cowboys team, okay? I just feel like they're a little thin at the cornerback, really just the overall secondary position here. So honestly, Trevon Diggs, I think, is a solid fit. Again, like Chaisson to the Falcons, he's going to bring toughness, he's going to bring attitude and physicality to a Cowboy secondary that doesn't really have a lot of that. Also, Byron Jones is set to hit the free agency market as well. I don't think Dallas has enough money to pay him, right? They have to take care of Amari Cooper. They have to figure out what's going on with Dak as well. So it's up to Mike McCarthy, it's up to Jerry Jones, and we'll see what Dallas does. So next up, we have the Miami Dolphins. Now, earlier in the draft, we had the Miami Dolphins trading up from 5 to 3 with the Detroit Lions. In that scenario, I think it's a little much to give up the 5th spot and where they're picking now. So I had them giving up the 5th pick and their later first-round pick, because remember, Miami has 3 firsts in this year's draft. So with the 2nd pick in the Miami Dolphins draft, I'm going left tackle out of Alabama, Jedrick Wills, right? Tackle, solid player, really, really, really good stuff from Wills. He's one of my favorite players in the draft for sure. He's another guy that you could plug in at right tackle, you could plug in at left tackle. It doesn't really matter where you need him. He could play on both sides of the ball. He protected Tua's blind side, which, since he's a lefty, was right tackle. So really, Wills, he's a professional. Again, coming from Alabama, Miami's trying to establish and develop a culture down there. It's pretty much been non-existent for the past couple seasons under Adam Gase and whatnot. Even the coaches before them, I don't even know who it was, Joe Philbin. They really haven't had a solidified culture. Now you're getting one of the best quarterbacks in college football, Tua, right? Former national champion, won a bunch of games, just an electrifying player. And then you're getting his right-hand man in Jedrick Wills later in the first round. Talk about a slam dunk. Okay, you're getting two professional guys, two classy, talented, young individuals into the Miami Dolphins building to help build with Brian Flores, right? So, also, a point to make. Miami traded away Laramie Tunsil last season. I felt like that was one of the big reasons why Fitzpatrick, why Josh Rosen, and this offense couldn't really get going, was because the offensive line was so bad. So now you're upgrading the quarterback position and you're upgrading the tackle position as well. So Jedrick Wills to the Miami Dolphins. Next up, Las Vegas Raiders. I'm going on a limb with this pick, and I'm going to say Jacob Eason is going to go to Vegas here. Eason is a guy who not many people are talking about. It seems like, since the Senior Bowl just happened, everybody's talking about Jalen Hurts and Herbert and Jordan Love. I keep seeing Jordan Love in the first round. I'm not as sold on Love as I am with Eason. I mean, when you take a look at Jacob's body of work, he's played in pro-style systems. He has the size, the arm strength, and he's played on both, two different sides of the country, Pac-12, SEC. Big-time recruit coming out of high school. Two different coaching staffs, two different overall systems, and he also had a year to sit as well, like when he first transferred to Washington. So really, this guy's done it all. He has a big arm. He has experience under center, what John Gruden likes to do a lot. I really like Eason as a quarterback prospect. Like I said before, cannon for an arm, extreme accuracy in the intermediate routes, right? Those like the 10 and 15 out breaking out routes. Really good stuff from Jacob. I think his stock is going to rise at the combine, and then he's going to have a pro day. I think his physical tools are going to speak for themselves, and he could put on his resume, yeah, I played at Georgia, won some games. I played at Washington, won some games. Pro-style system, whatever. He checks a lot of boxes. Okay, now there are some questions about love of the game. His dad played, right? He was a New England Patriot way back. I think it was in the 80s. But there were some question marks. Was he kind of forced to play and like following his dad's footsteps, all that kind of stuff? How much does he love football? But as of right now, I like Jacob Eason a lot better than Jordan Love at this point. So I have Vegas going Eason. Next up, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars, their second first-round pick as well, right? They traded away Jalen Ramsey, got the Rams' first-round pick. They're going to be replacing Jalen Ramsey with this pick, C.J. Henderson, cornerback from UF. Henderson is a physical, imposing cornerback with height. Okay, height and weight. When you watched the Florida Gators defense last season, it was no joke. They get after the quarterback. They intercept the football. C.J. Henderson really sets the tone for UF. And this is another guy, by the way, who's just shooting up draft boards. When I, kind of back in the college season, I thought of him as like a late round 2 kind of guy, but he is skyrocketing up boards. So right now, everybody's talking about he's going to be a first round pick. And with Trevon Diggs off the board, with Jeff Okuda off the board, Jacksonville has a hole at corner. And of course, they could go out and sign a guy like Bradley Roby or something like that, just like a 1-year stopgap. I think they did that this year with who was it? I think he was a corner from drafted by Oakland a couple years back. Anyway, he actually had a pretty solid season. Can't think of the name of him right now, but they get their long-term guy in C.J. Henderson, and we'll see how it plays out. Next up, Philadelphia Eagles, Henry Ruggs from Alabama. Everybody's talking about this guy's speed. He is easily the fastest receiver in this class, and he's going to blow people away with his 40-yard dash time at the combine. I look at Philly. They're just depleted, right? They are absolutely depleted, right? Injury after injury after injury. Running back, O-line, Carson Wentz is always beat up. Wide receiver, Alshon Jeffrey, Ertz, right? Everybody's hurt with this team. You're going to get a guy in the building at Henry Ruggs who can instantly replace Deshaun Jackson, right? So you don't have to really worry about him coming back healthy, and if he comes back as the same player, he's already up there in age. Ruggs is going to come in and be having him just on the field, just defensive coordinators have to watch out. Same kind of deal with Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown from the Baltimore Ravens. When he's in the game, defensive coordinators know that this guy can just pull the safeties off and take it to the house, right? Whenever Ruggs got the football, he just seemed electric with the ball at Alabama. And granted, he played with a ton of talent. Tua had a lot of time to throw. Tua was an outstanding quarterback, and he also had Jeudy on the same offense. So. And even Najee Harris at running back was an absolute stud. So you can make the argument that, safeties and also Nick Saban, traditional kind of run guy, pro-style guy, likes to establish the run. So safeties kind of are playing a little bit closer to the line of scrimmage, and kind of have the idea of stopping the run first, and then let's kind of cover. So maybe you can say Ruggs is a little bit overrated, but just as far as pure speed and just ball skills, I like Ruggs a lot, and I think he makes a lot of sense for Philly because they do have box out kind of guys in Alshon Jeffrey and Arcega-Whiteside, so, and even Ertz for that matter as well. So Ruggs, nice little change of pace wide receiver, and I like that fit for Philly. Next up, Buffalo Bills. I'm selecting T. Higgins, wide receiver from Clemson. That's right, 2 back-to-back wide receivers off the board, both off dominant teams. Higgins will be an instant upgrade at the wide receiver position for Buffalo. I like what they have now with John Brown and Cole Beasley and these guys. And Sean McDermott really killed the draft last season. I mean, you had guys contributing all across the draft, right? Guys like Devin Singletary and Dawson Knox. You could just go down the list of how many impactful players that this Bills team has drafted, or this Bills franchise has drafted over the past couple seasons, right? Even guys like Tre'Davious White, Tremaine Edmonds, Ed Oliver. This is a loaded Buffalo Bills defense. And really, I feel like the defense is top notch, right? It's a top 5 defense, and the offense is kind of lagging behind. And you have to kind of say, okay, why are we lagging behind? I just don't think they have enough talent at wide receiver. And plus, Josh Allen is still developing. Why not kill 2 birds with 1 stone and draft a big, physical, imposing wide receiver in T. Higgins, who won a ton of games, who won a ton of 50-50 balls at Clemson, and he was the vocal point from that Clemson offense, from a wide receiver position. He was their number 1 guy, and teams still couldn't slow him down. Okay, teams could not slow this guy down. John Brown and Cole Beasley are both on the shorter end. I do feel as though Josh Allen needs a bigger target, a more reliable target that he could throw to in coverage, and not so much kind of waiting around for these small shifty guys to either beat teams over the top or kind of get open underneath. So I think T. Higgins is a nice fit. You can kind of put him on the outside on an island and just let him go to work, and which also would open up Brown and Beasley underneath, under or really just over the middle of the field and in that short passing game, because that is kind of a staple in the Brian Daboll offense. But anyway, T. Higgins to Buffalo. Next up, we got the New England Patriots, Laviska Shenault, wide receiver from Colorado. Everybody talked about New England not having weapons this season. Shenault arguably is the greatest weapon in this draft. People have said he could be like a Cordell Patterson, or like a Tyler, not Mangum, who was the Taysom Hill from New Orleans, kind of like a gadgety kind of guy who you can kind of line up on the outside, on the inside, run wildcat with them, run reverses with them, really good in red zone situations. But I really do think Shenault is more than that. I also think he could help out on special teams for New England. If you know Bill Belichick, you know that he likes versatile players that you could kind of just play all around the field. Look at Julian Edelman and Wes Welker back in the day, right? Just guys that you can just move all across the field, confuse defenses, and just make defensive coordinators account for these for these weapons. And Tom Brady obviously knows the system like the back of his hand. He could find these guys. He knows exactly where they're going to be. So also, I don't think, and I know everybody's hopping off the Patriot bandwagon. Brady won't be there, this and that. The dynasty's over. I mean, they lost. They made it to the playoffs. They had an incredible regular season. I don't think the Patriots are done. Okay, I just want to throw that out there. So next up, we have the New Orleans Saints, Justin Jefferson from wide receiver from LSU. This was kind of one of the, another harder pick for me to kind of go across. At the end of the day, the Saints have weapons right? Like Taysom Hill and Michael Thomas, one of the best in the game, and Alvin Kamara, another really, really solid piece at running back. But I do feel as though they lacked this number 2, number 3, number 4. Like they kind of lacked the role that like Willie Snead. You know, everybody knows Willie Snead from Baltimore and stuff like that, but he spent a lot of time with the Saints, and he did a lot of things that I felt like weren't. He didn't get a lot of credit for him. And then once Snead left, they kind of. I just feel as though there's a lot of attention paid to Alvin Kamara and Michael Thomas as a whole. You need to get these guys some help. As much as Drew Brees is you know, such a great quarterback, and even though you have these pieces on the outside, or you know, a piece in Thomas and Kamara, I still feel as though they need kind of that slot guy. I feel like Jefferson comes in as the hometown kid, and kind of is able to kind of just beat zone coverages, get open on third and shorts, and really be that reliable. He kind of reminds me of a, you know, I don't know if you guys know who this is, but Jeremy Curley, way back in the day for the New York Jets. We drafted him out of TCU. Just a smaller, shiftier type of wide receiver with really good hands that gets open on third down. Just guys that can move the chains. And I feel like that's what the Saints really, really lack. So Jefferson to the Saints. Next up, Minnesota Vikings, Kristian Fulton, the cornerback from LSU. This was another tough selection for me because Minnesota is another one of those teams that it's like, you know, they have a lot of pieces on defense, but cornerback specifically, I felt like they really, really struggled at this season. I just felt like teams were just killing them through the air. Xavier Rhodes, just his production tanked. Trey Waynes ended up having a solid season, but he's a free agent. So I have him going with Fulton. A lot of people have Fulton as the number 2 corner in this draft. I don't. I do like Diggs more than him. I like Okuda more than him as well. But I feel like at this point in the draft, right, like a late first-round pick, if you could get a starting caliber corner with really high upside, then you might as well do it. Mike Zimmer really does well with DBs, coaching defensive backs as well. So Kristian Fulton, Minnesota Vikings. Next up, we got the Detroit Lions. Now, originally, right, in real life, this is the Miami Dolphins draft pick, but in this scenario, in this mock draft, they traded up, or they traded down, rather, with the Miami Dolphins. So this pick is going with Detroit, and I'm going kind of a controversial pick. Antoine Winfield, safety from Minnesota. One of my favorite players in the draft. I think he's better than McKinney from Alabama. I know I might get some heat for that. I know there's gonna be people that say he's 5'10". That's not NFL starting safety size. I like Winfield a lot. Extremely, extremely high defensive IQ. The way he impacts the game on the defense side of the football it's crazy. He could hit. He can fly around the field. He intercepts balls. He makes plays when they're needed to be made. I think this guy's stock's only going to shoot up. I don't know if it's going to go really high up, like at the combine, because I don't really know how much of a physical presence he's going to be, but he just knows where to be. Kind of like a Tyrann Mathieu back with the Arizona Cardinals, like when he first, the Honey Badger, right, when he first came out of LSU and stuff, fell in the draft, obviously. Winfield, when you watch him, it's going to sound like a stretch. He reminds me of Earl Thomas. He really, really does. And when you look at Detroit, they obviously traded away Diggs to Seattle. Again, this defense has been getting torched all season, but they have some nice pieces coming back healthy. They already got guys like Darius Slay and Flowers. Go get a safety. Go get an instinctual, smart safety that you could kind of just plug in at free safety or strong safety, because I really, really like Winfield here. So next up, we have the Seattle Seahawks. Jalen Reagor, wide receiver, TCU. Throughout every single Seahawks game this season, we just kind of saw, it was almost like seeing the same kind of thing over and over and over and over again, where it was Russell Wilson needing to be perfect for the Seahawks to win games. I really like the Seahawks defense. I still love the Seahawks coaching staff, Pete Carroll, Schottenheimer, and these guys. But top to bottom, the offense, and I love Metcalf. I love DK Metcalf. I loved him at Ole Miss. I still don't know why he fell, completely, but Russell Wilson needs some more weapons, okay? Reagor at TCU is almost like he's like a little Tyreek Hill, kind of. He's just like a bigger version of Tyreek Hill. Really wins at the 50-50 competitive footballs. He just seems to kind of, when, whoever it was, whether it was like Kenny Hill or whoever these guys, TCU quarterbacks were, it just seems like he would come down with the football. He was an electrifying player who you could throw little screen passes out to him, slants, whatever it is, and he could beat you over the top. Just getting him the ball, getting him in space, and letting him work. He really, really did his thing at TCU. And you got to get Russell Wilson some weapons here, some more help on the offense side of the football. And Pete Carroll has shown an ability later in the draft to get good corners, to get good defensive linemen, right? To get help in even the undrafted free agent market. So Reagor to the Seattle Seahawks. Next up, Baltimore Ravens, going with one of my favorite players in the draft, linebacker from Oklahoma, Kenneth Murray. Murray's a guy who he's a ball hawk. Okay, wherever the ball is, Murray's going to be around it. Very fast. Yes, he is undersized, and yes, he does get swallowed up by tackles by blocks from time to time. But overall, I think Murray, I don't want to say a poor man's Devin White, but he kind of has the same style of play, and he is shorter, he is lighter, like Devin White. I don't want to say he is Devin White because he's just absolutely phenomenal, and Devin White was a top 5 pick last year. If Kenneth Murray was that, he'd be top 10 considered. He's not Devin White, but I still really, really like him. He's a nice complementary piece, and I feel like Baltimore's, just the way the Baltimore defense performs year in, year out, he's going to be a nice guy that they can groom up, and he's just going to be instinctual. He's going to be the little guy in the defense, but he flies around and he plays with a lot of heart and a lot of passion as well. So him to Baltimore, I really, really like that pick. Next up, Tennessee Titans, Zach Bond, outside linebacker from Wisconsin. This is another guy that really seems to be shooting up draft boards. I look at Cameron Wake. He's getting up there in age. I don't know how long Cameron Wake is going to be playing for, but I love Harold Landry on the opposite side. I don't know if Bond can come in and be an every down starter. I don't know that. But he can be an effective sub-package guy to come in and rush the passer. He did work at Wisconsin. He put in a lot of work and did his thing. Remember, the Big Ten's offensive lines are great. Iowa, Penn State, Michigan, Ohio State, even Wisconsin. It seems to me, Minnesota, even all these Big Ten offensive lines are fantastic. That's kind of what they're known for. O-line. So Tennessee's a team that doesn't really have a lot of needs. I guess you can maybe say O-line, like a Josh Jones or something like that, even an Austin Jackson at this point in the draft, because we don't really know what's going to be happening with Conklin, who's going to be hitting the free agency market, and he's only 26. So you can say, let's make a push for an O-lineman, but I feel like at this point, they're a team with not a lot of holes. I'm going outside linebacker and Bond from Wisconsin. Next up, we got the Green Bay Packers. Really, really solid season under Matt LaFleur's first season there. I'm going with Austin Jackson, tackle from USC. This is one of those picks where you're like, okay, can we reach on a wide receiver like a Michael Pittman, a Tyler Johnson from Minnesota? But I feel like at the end of the day, you can never have enough offensive linemen. And right now, people are saying that Austin Jackson could possibly go as high as 15 to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. If Jackson is that highly regarded, and we are talking about the end of the first round here, I don't know what's happening with Balaga. I believe he's hitting the free agency market as well. He'll probably be back. But you can never really be sure, and you can never have enough offensive linemen. Austin Jackson to Green Bay. Next up, by the way, these last 2 picks are not set in stone, obviously, because the Super Bowl is Sunday. So I think the Niners are actually going to pull this one off. So we have the Chiefs on the clock, and I have them selecting J.K. Dobbins, running back from Ohio State. Dobbins is a physical, imposing running back that runs downhill between the tackles. Hard guy to bring down. I don't want to say he's like a Zeke Elliott, because that's just like that's just a lazy comparison. But because Dobbins is his own player here. And I also think Elliott's a lot better of a blocker than Dobbins is. But I look at the Chiefs, and they obviously have explosive players on offense with Kelsey and Hill and Sammy Watkins and all these different guys. But I look at the Chiefs' run game, or it's funny, you watch the Chiefs, and I feel like they just never run the ball, right? They just kind of replace the running game with the screen game, which I guess is okay, but because they're in the Super Bowl. But why not go get the number 1 running back in this draft? You could say, okay, DeAndre Swift, I get that, maybe Cam Akers, but J.K. Dobbins from the shotgun, just being that goal line presence, take some pressure off of Mahomes to make every single play, get Dobbins in the building, Kansas City. I really like that selection. And then last but not least, pick 32, San Francisco 49ers. I'm selecting Josh Jones, tackle from Houston. Same kind of philosophy here as the 49ers, or as the Green Bay Packers, rather. You can never have enough offensive linemen. They seem to have, and yes, you could say, okay, maybe we could go corner here like Terrell from Clemson, but I think Jones is too good to pass up at this point. Staley's getting up there in age. You have to replace him at some point. I love Mike McGlinchey. I really, really do. But at spot number 32, in my opinion, I wouldn't reach. You just got to go best player available. Josh Jones, to me, is that guy. So that rounds out the mock draft 1.0. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Regarding your favorite teams and favorite players. And yeah, thanks so much for sticking around. I know this is a long video, so I appreciate it. And as always, go Jets.